Okay, welcome to another Coffee with Samso. Today we've got slightly something different that we normally talk with ASX companies. Today I've got David Pillinger here with us here at the University Club in Crawley, and he'll be giving us an insight into VCEX, which is a venture capital exchange, which really works something like a trading platform for a share registry. So look, David, we give us an intro to what you do and give us share the story.
Okay, well, I've come from a long history of business background of property development and setting up SPVs for specific projects, specific purpose vehicles like companies. And what I've noticed is that apart from the fact that there's an excessive amount of compliance required in order to make a safe journey for the company directors and the investors involved in any of the process that capital raising requires in business, there is also the other functions of actually communicating and managing the right people, if you like. So qualifying investors and maintaining connection and doing the transfer of funds, all of this becomes a significant burden to the directors. It's a huge risk. It's also a cost, which is my main motivation. If I lower costs, I improve profit. If I improve profit, I make more money, and if I make more money, more people will invest with me. So I don't want to offer people a high cost project. You might see that there's a lot of companies on the ASX that are genuinely good quality mining companies, and they're dedicated geologists that are very good at what they do. But there's a lot of lifestyle mining companies on there that ultimately they don't mind the cost of the ASX and being listed, because they will just go to the market and pivot to a new find and just raise more money. But the chance of a lifestyle miner finding something good as opposed to a dedicated miner that's very good and they will turn over every stone to find what they're looking for is far greater. So you've got to find that dedication and that person that's very good to invest with. And so what we've done is fundamentally created an efficient platform for companies, not just mining companies, but any proper and dedicated business person that wants to do what you can do on a listed exchange like the ASX, much cheaper in a low volume financial market, approved by ASIC and validated in live audit with ASIC through the VCEX platform. So
yeah, I remember when you approached me, well, it must be almost 3 weeks ago, and we had a big discussion about things. Took me a little while to sort of get my head around what you do. It's effectively a platform, a trading platform, which is also / share registry.
Correct. You have to count everything you do.
Yeah.
If you're not measuring it, you're not managing it. Simple as that.
And it's compliant, right? It's ASIC compliant.
Well, it's an ASIC agent.
Yep.
So VCEX is an AI that is a registered ASIC agent. So it literally has what's called an API, a connection to the ASIC database. And anytime you lodge a form, it creates that and lodges it in real time. So if you create an IM, it'll write that for you in 2 hours rather than a month or a few weeks. And it pushes that out, and then it'll have people sign that and validate it back to a single source. So that one filing system, which is run at AWS in Sydney, goes to all of the companies, all the stakeholders, and ASIC, which is in Traralgon in Victoria, and back to the investor in a process where the people that are involved can issue a share, do the compliance, and deliver the funds and all of the commissions to the brokers in 60 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, this is really interesting because as you're talking there, one similar platform which is run by Comply, which is a listed company, they have something similar with the brokers.
Yeah, that's a broker's platform, and that's definitely a required element, and it's great to see. And I know a few of the guys there, and I've seen their reverse takeover of Integer, and I know Mark Fisher, who used to work in my surf stores. I had one in Claremont and in Freo and Subiaco. I had 5 of them in my junior days of learning how to do business, and a surfboard factory right next to Neil Biddle's show in North Fremantle. So.
Okay.
I've had 5 surf stores in a factory and exported and imported. That was in my early 20s, and by the time I got to 30 I switched to property. But ultimately Mark Fisher at Integer has a great understanding of what we do, and he said this is the biggest change in M&A that he's ever seen. It makes it much easier to do what we do, but we do a part of what is required for compliance. But Comply is specifically developed for all of what brokers do, which is very different to what we do. We do some of it, and we work with companies that use Comply, and Comply is a great product for brokers, and they shouldn't trade without it. It's a bit like a seatbelt. But the same goes with VEX. They shouldn't actually trade without VEX off market. The preparation.
What was really intriguing with VEX is that it's a trading platform where, say, the private companies with PTY Limited or an unlisted public company could sit themselves and in that pre-IPO stage or thereabouts and be able to show with compliance that, hey, I'm trying to raise some money. Here are the shares, and the 708s, the sophisticated investors can actually log them in, qualify it, and then have a free look at all the customers on your platform.
That's right. So we have a marketplace where anyone can go there, but they have to qualify to go further. So in order to get into any marketplace, they need to prove that they're a 708. But once a person's qualified on the system, which is free, any investor can go there and just look at a company. Once they've got the 708 on that central file, that can then be used with any broker in Australia. There's 6,500 AFSLs and a lot more corporate authorised representatives underneath that. So once that happens, we have the ability to use a combination of knowledge. So if a broker was to log in, they could actually introduce investors, and that would then be their client. And so any communication that client gets would be through the broker. So we actually create a privacy wall around every single client, and then any company that they choose to look at, instantly they're qualified through the capture of the 708, and all of the required compliance is added to the AFSL journey, and that way the advisor, the broker, could work with a multitude of brokers and share in a conjunctional of fees, and the system will distribute the fees to the brokers but protect each person's client that was introduced. So my advice to brokers is to put their clients on VEX before someone else does, because that would mean that they get first dibs of where their allocation of brokers are. I mean, you can add multi-brokers, like I've got several brokers that give me deals and I pay them. But this system figures out who gave me the deal and pays them. And it says, so I looked at your company, instantly it would say, David Pillinger's, well, it wouldn't tell me my name, but it would say, a broker has a client that's interested in investing, he's qualified.
Okay.
And then that information would be confirmed and a deal would be done between the broker. But if there's no broker, then it would just say, David Pillinger's interested, call him now. This is his phone number, this is his email, and he's qualified. He's a high net worth.
And the transaction actually happens on the platform, right? So if David Pillinger says, fantastic, Noel, I want to put some money into you, buy your shares, the transaction is executed through the platform?
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole process of onboarding a investor is done, and then that's set in stone. It's there. It's your own free login. You can look at every investment you've got, and should any of those be, raising capital, you'll be informed. If they have a meeting, you'll be informed. If you decide to buy more shares, you can press the buy button just like you would on CommSec, and that will actually transfer the funds out of your chosen entity. So you might have a super fund or a family fund or a trust, and you can say that company is from this BSB and account number, and I'm buying 100,000 or 500,000, whatever it is that you want to buy, and it'll transfer for each company up to $5 million a day of shares without doing all of the banking and the reconciliation, the 484 issue of securities and the registry work. So there's no back office required for any brokerage anymore with any off-market management, because this system does 100% of the transfer end-to-end and the continuous communications, AGMs, voting, the whole lot.
That was the point where I looked at it and I said, this is a little bit more than just a platform, a trading platform. It's actually multi-end in terms of you got the investor has a platform to go to, you got the sell side has a platform to go to, and the intermediaries have a platform to go to. So the more we talked over time, the more I sort of registered. I thought, this is almost like a complete package.
It is. We've drawn it
like a marketplace, you could say.
Well, that's why we call it the marketplace. A low volume financial market is really only there for a shareholder to match a desire to sell shares in low volume to another investor that's qualified. So ultimately, it's the individuals that own the shares and are buying in the third party that are doing the deal. We have no involvement in whatsoever. So the brokers, if they were to find an investor and say, look, there's some third party shares that you can get before that one IPOs and before they go up in price again, I might be able to get you a few $100,000 of them. Would you be interested? And they might say yes, definitely. Like, say for instance, Canva's unlisted. If they were on VEX, they could transfer shares through there without any back office requirement, and they could do that with any broker, and that would be creating a full independent process between each stakeholder. So we make that, it's basically what we call user-centric. So if you are a company director and doing the CoSec work, it's user-centric to you, but if you're a broker, or it's user-centric to how you think and what you do. You're interested in getting your fees and turning over more business, and so if you can get people in and out of a share and move them into another one with the same money before it IPOs, then you're getting more business done and you're helping business to improve. And
yeah, because one of the things with private entities is that people always have this fear that obviously there's no liquidity, and transactions really based on whether you're going to find a buyer or is there and if you're a buyer, was there be a seller, right?
Yeah.
So this marketplace sort of puts it in place where, look, you can go in there and say, look, there's someone wanting to sell this parcel of shares, and the marketplace has the ability to look at that. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, I mean, the point is, I suppose, if any type of M&A tool has to be able to do that, right? So it has to be able to say, I'm putting this parcel of shares up, and then the ability to qualify the person that is able to buy that through the rules of the Corporations Act. So what we do is create what we call 3D rules. It's a bit like a bumper bar on the bowling alley, at a 10-pin bowling alley, where each user journey can basically get from end to end without going off the sides. So maintaining the rules to get to the end. Now the success of each deal is really up to the company and how well they provide. So if they get a strike, that means they've done really well, let's say. But our job is to keep them on track, getting to end. The company's job is to make it possible for the company, the investor, to share in their success by investing with them. And so, you know, this is the sort of thing that we do. So, but to be fair, it's not just transactions in shares of new issue, and it's not just third-party transfers in a low-volume financial market, which incidentally is Rule 2016888. LVFM, so it's the low volume financial market. Now, companies can go to vex.com.au, that's VCEX.com.au, and they can try the system for free, and they can see how much they can save in terms of man hours, man or woman hours, there's a lot of people working there, and in terms of cost, consulting costs, time, efficiency, and most importantly, a frictionless transaction between the holy grail, which is the qualified investor. They don't want to muck around, they just want to buy something, and if it's good, they'll keep it. And having the option and the ability to sell it, should that company take too long to go to market to the stock market, there's this second tier opportunity which is regulated by ASIC on 100 trades per year, or $1.5 million. So it gives enough room for investors to get out of a deal if they choose to take a profit or move their investment somewhere else. And any company can go on there and create that. So that's the predominantly what we've manufactured, and the AI understands every single user journey. So it has taken quite a bit of effort and a lot of money to develop such a complex number of user journeys that all talk to each other and understand exactly what their role is, so that they can be centric to each individual user journey.
So, in terms of pricing, how do you guys? Obviously, you're there to make money. So, are you charging from both ends, the user and the seller?
No, it's only, it's very, in terms of conflict, you don't want to ever charge from both ends. I think that if you're charging on the way in and the way out, you want to make sure that the people are making money, because it's very quick that they realise that they're getting, you know, you get paid either way as a broker, right? Now, brokers know that, and they don't like to torch their clients. And so this is not news, okay? But for us as a service provider, as what we call a SaaS, a RegTech FinTech SaaS, we have this ability to charge a subscription fee, and we don't charge any other user other than the company to use the system. But then what we do is we say, well, we've made it fair, so any broker can use this for free, any investor can use it for free, and it'll coordinate and give you a free virtual PA that manages all of the transactions and banking for you, it manages all the compliance for you, it manages all of the receipts and distribution of funds, buying and selling, and all of your registry work to keep an eye on what's going on, all announcements, and you can look at that in one spot. So any number of companies you have, it'll even pay your ASIC annual fees and do your solvency statements for you. So it does everything that you need to do without paying anyone else to do it.
Okay. So if, in effect, we sort of mentioned that you sort of slash share registry as well, and we discussed this. You were saying to me that in the end, towards the end of the year, you guys could actually act as a share registry for public companies who are on the ASIC, right?
Yeah, so there's a step or two that we've got in development at the moment with our in-house program. So we have an office in South Fremantle above our real estate business, which we've owned for 20 years, and we've had the building for 20 years, and ultimately we are growing out of it, but that area that we work from basically is developing an ability to trade off-market and ultimately on-market. But before we get to that, we've actually got this demand for SPVs, special purpose vehicles, of which a lot of super funds, which is about $3 trillion held in super funds, and a lot of them are self-managed super funds, like to invest in medium interest bonds, if you like, and funds. So VEX is, as much as we're going to say yes, if by the end of this year we have companies that will be doing IPOs, and we will remain their registry, and by remaining their registry and to be true to the service that we were off market, we will probably need to have some sort of trading ability, which will require a license for that. So it's not impossible to get a license like that, and we have talked to a few AFSLs about working with them. But ultimately, we're not brokers, we're a service. So if there's the licensing requirement for that, we would acquire that to do that. But there is more to what we're doing right now, which is more in the line of maintaining interest payments and collecting and making payments on a monthly basis to investors, which is a really big area that's worth talking about.
Okay. So, I mean, we sort of understand what you are and where you guys are going. You are also in the process of raising money for yourself to sort of develop what we've just discussed, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. So, so in order for us to create this ability to collect money, let's just say the SPV was a property developer. We have a lot of them. Now, it's not hard to see that someone doing a greenfield development, which has approval, can make a rural block into a residential suburb, which happens all the time. Now, Australia's going to be way more desirable than ever was before, and it's always been a desirable place to live since COVID's happened. Now, we know that the floodgates are going to just roar with property for the next 10 years as people just get up and move. I mean, if Hollywood's already moved here, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we didn't even need Hollywood to move here, but they did, okay? And if they did, it's just like calling every beach Bondi now. They're famous. You go, oh, God. I mean, good on them. Yeah. But it's not, what I'm trying to get at is that being a property developer is difficult. Mezzanine funding is expensive, and you might have a very good project, but the bank wants pre-sales of almost 100%. And you're saying, well, it's very complicated and the margins are tough with the interest that they're paying. Some are 10-15%. So we've been in touch with dozens of companies that are raising hundreds of millions of dollars. In the ACTs, there's quite a lot actually, and they're collecting money between 7 and 9%. So they're paying 7 to 9% to the super funds that are investing and people of high net worth, qualified investors, on a monthly basis. And they've asked us, and they're doing it via spreadsheet, and they're saying, look, we need to manually do this. I mean, one company has 16 SPVs alone, and that to us is about a $300,000 a year revenue, saves them over $1 million a year in costs. And it's accurate, because most of their cost comes from mistakes. See, computers might not have imagination, and they might not have a soul, but algorithms are accurate. They're like a recipe. And they're very accurate, and they don't sleep. So they just work all the time, so you don't have a backlog to get to when you go to your desk. And then you can use all of your creativity to go and make more. So you might want to talk to someone rather than be trying to bust a move to get a balance to zero. Where's the money gone? Did it go to the right account? I mean, that's the job for a computer, okay?
Yeah, I mean, you gave an example where during an IPO, where people are obviously putting money into your bank, and then I remember this when we were doing IPOs, you're going to match up who's actually put the money in.
Reconciliation,
right?
yeah,
it's a pain,
job.
because if everyone's putting $10,000 in, you go, well, and all you get is an account number, and maybe someone's put a name, maybe someone's not put a name.
See, this is the thing. People talk about AI and life hacks and things like that, and it's all jargon, which is really, they're just for people to try and sound smart, but really computers are very basic. They are doing a job that's very predictable, okay? So I wouldn't ever worry about drones or anything, because there's only a certain parameter that they've got, So you just stand there and go bang, because I knew it was going to go past there. because I've got an imagination and a soul. I can move. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's got a flight path.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
correct.
boom, got ya. I mean, so I don't have a problem with it. Technology's simple. It's just logic, right? It's actually very black and white. That's the hardest thing of all. Is ASIC's very diverse, right? And it's quite a grey area, and it's got so many layers of compliance. It's confusing, which makes it grey. So what we've got is a computer system that's black and white. It just says yes or no, true or false. So all of the things that you do that caused you stress and trying to reconcile an account and trying to find, is that your 100,000 or is that someone else's 100,000 or is that the other person's 100? And they're all saying they've paid it, but which one actually got paid? So a computer will know what bank account it came from and where it went to, and ours does that in 60 seconds. But not only that, it actually fills in a 484, lodges it with ASIC, validates it back as accepted and received, sends the holding statement with the issuer statement number, goes to the register of members, updates that, and changes the whole dashboard appearance with the new total of shares, new total of shareholders, and the total amount raised. And it might even distribute money to 1 or 2 or 3 brokers that were involved in that particular transfer of any amount. I mean, it's just limited by the way that it works. But we actually have a BPay function that you could put, you know, any amount of money.
Just chasing that bird away.
I don't know if you heard all of that, but
but no, that's good. Look, I think that function is although people don't see it in the background, it's actually costs that's actually being incurred, right?
Yeah, it's only the difference is, and efficiency is something that people don't realise until they've done it. Okay, so we have a hard time telling people how much it actually does, because they either A, can't get their head around how much it will do or what it does, and so what we've decided to do is just demonstrate that. So we've got quite a few EV material companies, like mining startups, that are going for copper and, you know, lithium and rare earth as well. And we're supporting the industry to go to ASX listing. So that's why we're aiming to get it to function, to get to an ASX and then maintain that registry service throughout the life cycle of that company. And so if a company lasts forever, like a BHP so far, you could say that's forever since it was born. So if you get a startup like a Broken Hill Prospecting and it turns into a world leader in its business and practice, we intend to be the service that provides a very sticky subscription where we get paid every month for everything that they need to do. A bit like what we talked about, the supplier of the picks and the pans and the donkeys to the mining boom. We're just supplying the software as a service for RegTech, FinTech, and we're making it better and better all the time. So it's not so much about pivoting, it's more about adding.
I mean, I think the main attraction for me was the fact that I could see that there's so many sort of startups and there's a lot of startups that hang around for 2-3 years to develop their project, and before they go on big and better things like on the exchange, the bigger exchanges. But at the end of the day, they still need that register in the background, whether you're
you need it from the beginning.
From the
compliance
beginning,
you need from the first investor.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do it wrong from 1, then definitely 2 is going to be wrong as well. And so on.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that we've got what we call pay as you grow. So you asked earlier about cost. So we charge $18 a month per shareholder. Now that might sound cheap, which it is, especially for everything that we do. Some services offer part of what we do, and it looks like it's the same, but it's not. And the only real proof in the pudding is the companies that are running efficiently and have the capital to survive will be the ones that are on VEX. And the ones that are on other platforms that aren't necessarily doing what we do, but they look like they are, well, they have a higher cost, so therefore they might not survive. You know, they say no bucks, no Buck Rogers in compact computers. You need the bucks.
Yeah.
Actually, David Pillinger said that to me, and I laughed, and I actually watched a program on Netflix about the history of compact, and it came up with him being their CEO, and I thought back to when he said, no bucks, no Buck Rogers. But reality is all companies go on the ASX to raise capital and get a multiple effect from trading.
Yeah.
So if you can raise capital and get a multiple effect from trading in low volume, all you're doing with that company is, if you manage it well, is it's a rare commodity, because there's only 100 trades or 1.5 million. And if they keep it off market for longer, which more and more companies in the US are doing, and companies that are software companies like Canada are doing it, but ultimately, if you've got the money and you're doing the job, whether it's drilling holes in the ground and finding resources, and then people say, wow, they've now got an inferred amount. I mean, if you think about how much money is at the moment, it's cheap, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And if you think about, we're tapping into the $3 trillion worth of investors in property that are the mid-level of interest at 7 to 9%. I mean, if you can get an inferred resource, it's a bankable inferred with a feasibility study in place, it's no different from a greenfield property development. Yeah. What's the difference? Yeah. You still have brokers, they all get paid or not. You go direct or not. You know, it's a choice. It's all about being user-centric. I've got the luxury of working a lot in my life, and I've had a lot of practice and business. And so I get the gist. More pluses, less minuses. Doesn't matter what you sell. And so I kind of understand that if I want money and I want to pay my staff well, I need more pluses. And if I want to employ more people and have nice things, I need to have more pluses. But I'm not dead sort of focused on money. I used to be, but now I'm not. I haven't been for a long time. I'm more interested in the ability to do it. Like the actual ability to raise capital and trade in a low volume financial market gives any startup, like my children, if they want to start a cupcake company, they can, you know. It's going to be easier for them. All I have to do is think more profit, which is lower overheads. And then ultimately, when you asked earlier before, would a company be able to go to a ASX listing and use VEX as a registry service? Absolutely. It's no different to Computershare or any other, except it has all of these other features that it's designed from in its architecture, which is over 100,000 lines of code already and growing. But ultimately, that adding function and diverse use is the research and development that we do, because we don't quite know who or what will use it, but it fits. And it's not just in Australia. I mean, we have a company set up in the US already, in Delaware, and one in Ireland. And our managing director in Ireland, Peter Murphy, in COVID lockdown, said, oh, I'm struggling today. I was in a Zoom meeting with him, in a board meeting actually, in our SoSoft Ireland Limited. And he said, oh, when are you going to bring the system here? I've got 5 staff that they've taken the JobKeeper equivalent rather than turn up to work. So I'm doing every corporate secretarial job for hundreds of companies that we've got here, and you know, it's just, I'm living in the office. And
I think that the thing people forget, like, you know, I remember when I was doing the ASX company, one of the biggest costs that you couldn't get rid of, that you incur every month, no matter what you're doing, is share registry, compliance, company secretarial. You just couldn't turn them off because it's compliance, right?
Look, I mean, the thing is that when you want to go retail, tier 1, you go and get 2 audits a year. You can't turn the ASIC requirements off. And look, they're there for a good reason. It's like, why do we go to 40 kilometres an hour around schools between 7 and 9:30? Because you don't want to run over any little kids. There's innocent people out there, and if you want to play in that area, or you want to drive down that area, you want to play in that market, right? You want to be safe. You want to know that your kids are safe. You want to know that you're being safe. And compliance is not a dirty word. Compliance is actually just the simple fact of, these are the rules, okay? Now, if you know the rules, or even better, if an AI knows the rules, and they will not let you pass go, right, without following the rules, then you don't have to worry about going to jail. So that's the thing. I don't want to live in fear, but not in fear of compliance, And I'm not one of those sort of, people that are fearful of AI or what it does, because I know how simple it is. It's a computer. It does logical things. It doesn't have an imagination, right? That's science fiction. It doesn't have a soul. So if I know that because I have a soul, and I can imagine that it would be dangerous to trade without having some rules, well, if I use AI and I make sure that everyone does it, on VEX, I don't have to think about that anymore. It's just like my car instantly drops, it's a Tesla, goes from 60, it reads signs with cameras, and it just drops to 40. So if they put a temporary roadwork sign up with a circle, a red circle, black figures on a white background, boom, done. And it just drops the speed instantly. I'm driving along, I can't get a speeding ticket anymore. You know, I can't. I'm much safer, and it also looks for people. If someone runs out, it stops, jams on the brakes.
Hopefully.
Well, it's scary. I mean, look, let's just say that nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
You, me, Tesla. And to be fair, they're beta testing in the world on roads in Australia and everywhere else. And for the number of cars and the number of fatalities, they've probably reduced the number of fatalities and accidents. So people are very critical. One person does one thing wrong and everyone piles in.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
But that's not the truth.
Yeah.
It's just what's popular and emotional. And that's the soul and the imagination going wild. This is the beauty of computers. AI has not got a soul or imagination. It doesn't need to think about the what if. You know, we don't worry. So if you don't want to worry, if you want to have a life of more happiness and freedom and lower cost and lower burden, then you do things like VEX. You use that. And so the natural progression for VEX is to go and work with the ASX and help them to be compliant, because the ASX basically is, like VEX, operating on behalf of ASIC. I mean, VEX is literally an ASIC agent, but it's not doing ASIC's work, it's following ASIC's rules for you.
I think, you know, I said this when COVID happened, and I did this series of videos called Rooster Talk, and most of the conversations is that the internet's been telling us to get on the internet for 20 years, and suddenly COVID came along, and everyone's doing Zoom calls. Everyone's saying, hey, you know, I'm working so much more efficiently, and AI is became the forefront of everything, because technology, you know, are we going to use robots to serve us because of all this stuff? But AI has been sort of filtering in the background for so long already.
Oh, well, AI is simple. It's just a recipe of moves. Okay, so it knows that this person and that person have to go there, but before they go there, they have to stop here and here, and they have to go over here and here. And if you feed rules in, it will know how to do it. A computer's stupid without rules. It's just a bunch of circuit boards and screens, etc., connected via the IoT, the Internet of Things. Now, the Internet of Things is the really interesting one, because now that it's basically how IoT works is you have an agreement with a Wi-Fi password. So if you have a Wi-Fi password, you have an agreement, right? So anything that you're connected to on that password knows that you're entitled to use it. So if you turn up, it'll connect to anything that's approved device on that. But that's where we get to see the AI. So before the kind of Bluetooth and connection of internet to the devices, we didn't quite see it happening, but it's been happening on B2B type, you know, bank to bank, not business to business, transfers, and there's been a lot of are you this through Swift codes over years, and are you that, I am this, okay, I'm validating and confirming. So they do that. But that's how logical, you know, an algorithm is. It has to have fundamentally a key and an agreement and a rule.
I think, look, I encourage you guys to go and check out the website and have a look at how it works, because what really fascinates me is that the VEX is more than just what we've just discussed. It's actually almost like an ecosystem of how you could actually be there, promote, and there's an endless way of actually it's a perfect marketplace where everything is there. You know, your marketing guys there, your promotions there, your bankers there, your intermediaries are there.
Everyone's there, and they can all actually expand on what they're doing. See, we don't know how well people will expand on the product. Because it's AI, if more brokers use it, we'll connect more to, say, Comply and those guys. If they develop, more need, like the payment of interest and calculated daily, we're teaching it that now. So we're saying calculate interest daily and pay that investor in arrears every month. And so, that's what we're doing. I mean, and the R&D part of what we do is we don't quite know who or how people will use it, because I'm not an accountant, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a broker, but they're using it, and the user pathways are saying, oh, can you get it to do this? And as long as they're participating, they're the ones that are getting the advanced technology first. But we don't mind, because we're just adding functions, so we'll just keep adding. So VCEX, like you say, is an ecosystem. That means that all things that are living are in balance. So an ecosystem is about balance. So if you keep pushing that kind of ability for a broker or for a company to go direct to a client, that will just push out the way that it goes. Or, doing how much information do I need from a lawyer or marketing if I want to go and market more. I mean, as we do that, we advance and change and add what people want based on laws. And then we create rules, and it just continually adds to the convenience of it and to the efficiency, which ultimately saves everyone money.
Oh, look, we could go on forever, and we would. But look, guys, reach out to David. I mean, look, make comments. And I'm sure David would be more than happy to connect with you guys. I really strongly encourage you to go and have a look at VCEX and just play around. I think you'll be very surprised as to what it actually is and can do. But guys, look, again, I'm going to do the YouTube thing, subscribe, likes, whatever. But I think it's a really fascinating area, and it's more than just a platform of such. I think I like to call it sort of marketplace, where everyone that's in as far as a ASIC type kind of listed companies can actually have a place in this platform. But look, Dave, thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for having me on.
And let's see if we go down the road. We can just follow the journey and see where you guys go.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of opportunities to see a lot more companies that are on VCEX on Coffee with Samso.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.